Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our pre-match press conference ahead of the day after's game against Chennai NFC. With us, we've got head coach Des Buckingham and goalkeeper Furbala Chenpa. Floor's open. You can ask a question.
I'll ask my first question to the player. Hi, Football. How's this season been for you? Last season, you did not play a lot. You were sort of playing a few games. Mohammad Nawaz was playing a few games. This season, you have been a more consistent player. How has this experience been for you?
Experience has been good. Last year, Nawaz was playing very well, and I was supporting from the back. And as a team, we were doing very well in the first half of the season. And in the end, I got my chance. And we both did well in the last season. And this year, when I got my chance, I'm trying to be more consistent and trying to play as consistent as possible and prove my worth for the coach selection. So in the background also, the goalkeeping team has been very supportive, especially Bhaskar Bhai and Nawaz, and they keep supporting me, and that gives more confidence and easy to perform in the matches. So it's been a very good feeling that I'm playing consistently, and that's not only because of me but because of the whole team. The credit goes to the whole team and goalkeeping team.
So, if I want to follow up from that question, so a couple of years ago, during the semi-final against FC Goa, you came on specifically for the penalty shootout, and you had quite a bit of success as well. And I think Amrinder Singh was there still at the club at that time. So, from a personal standpoint, how you were at that stage and how you are at this stage, what has changed both in terms of, say, you playing more games, in terms of you developing? Give me a better idea about it.
At that point when I came for the penalty, I got nothing to lose. So it was a penalty for us, it's 90 and 10% and the ratio. So there was nothing to lose, and I did what I did. And right now, as a club, we are one of the best clubs in India, and so every match we want to win and get points on the table. So because of the team also, it gives more confidence to perform. So because of that, it makes me more easy to perform in the highest level, because the team we have and the coach we have, because everything we do on the ground is very clear, tactically and technically everything is clear. So it makes my job more easier.
Do you have any questions for Fulba?
For Purva, we have Before the break, you made an error against FC Goa. And what have you been doing in the break to make sure that you're able to get those errors out, before the game?
I think part of our job is to sometimes make mistakes, and what matters is how we come back from that mistakes. And on the background, we are doing what we can to minimize our mistakes. We are working with our coach Ramos, and he's been very good. And every mistake, not only last game, but every match we analyze as a team, as a goalkeeping team and head coach also. So every match, you guys don't see the mistakes that we do in every match, because if only the goals which happen, that can be seen by the audience, but other mistakes also happens which don't need to go. So we look up to that mistakes also and try to make it correct and try to correct it in the practice.
Coach, we have a question for you. Before the break, a lot of your attacking players were coming into form. So do you think the break was coming at a good time or a bad time?
Good afternoon. I just want to follow up on that answer, which I thought was fantastic. You've got a young goalkeeper, a young player, who has done ever so well, and the same as a lot of the other players, and they will make mistakes. But as you rightly said, it's how you respond and how you recover. And the pleasing thing, regardless whether it's the goalkeepers or the players, we're asking them to try and do things to develop themselves and to try and play the football we want, and that will happen every now and then. But it's important that they respond and they get back on the ball straight away. And the one thing that doesn't get ever spoken around, especially from a goalkeeping point of view, and it's something that we spent some time talking about, it's the saves that the goalkeepers do make at important times in the games, whether it's the scoreline or it's the time of the game, that allow us to go on and get points from the game. And Fuba's done that many times already this season. So that's a massive development in his game, and something that I think sometimes goes unseen, not just for you, but for the goalkeepers across the league. So, in terms of our break, I thought it came at a very good time. We wanted to start the season as well as we could. I spoke a lot about trying to continue on from where we left off in the Champions League. We used the Duran Cup to firstly try and be as successful as we could. We made the final, which allowed to give us 7 games to try and prepare ourselves and start the season well. And the first 9 games before the break, I think the first 2 or 3, we started as well as we could, but I think we got better game by game. And to have a small break, 9 games out of 20, so almost mid-season for us, for players to spend time going back and seeing families and friends and almost refreshing and rejuvenating to report back, which they have done, I think just gives them a little bit more of a lift, and we've certainly seen that now on the 3 occasions that we've done that. And the pleasing thing was we see that against North East, and then we see it again last week, when we not just the result but the performance. So I think it come at the right time, it come at a good time. The players, they're all fit, fresh and ready to go and finish off the strong second half of the season.
Another question is, what are your plans to stop the end form of Khyati from Chennai FC? Last game you guys played them, he was still adapting to the squad, but now he looks like he's right at home.
Yeah, they've got some good players, but so have we. So we'll do, as we always talk about, we've got a way that we want to do things. We'll set ourselves up and we have control of that. We don't know what team they'll put out, we don't know what formation they'll put out. We'll have an idea and we'll try and prepare our team as well as we can to try and nullify their threats. But again, the attention and the focus is always mostly on us, making sure that when we have the ball, we've got different ways that we can do what we think we can do in the game to try and get success. And then we'll have a way out of possession also of trying to nullify their threats, which is the same approach we take to every game.
Another question we have is...
Yeah, so now this actually leads me on to the next question which I was going to ask, because after the game the other day against East Bengal, your opposite number, Stephen Constantine, had a few things to say about Mumbai City FC. He talked about how Mumbai City FC have a huge budget. They have, I think he specifically said that half of the Indian players play in the national team. I think those are the words that he used. So one thing, how do you respond to that? Firstly, second thing is, when these sorts of comments are made in the public, obviously they reach the players as well. So as a manager, how do you sort of insulate them, or do you use it as, say, motivation for the next game, or how does that entire thing work?
Yeah, I think I'd like to think whenever I speak about other teams, firstly I'm respectful, and secondly what I say, if I do speak, is factual, because I think sometimes the narrative can be set from the comments that are given, and if they're not factual, it leads to other things, because it takes the attention away from maybe a young 24-year-old goalkeeper who's making his first season in the ISL, doing very well. Metab breaking through, staying in, doing well. Jante, who wasn't playing at Chennai and has come in and is now. So it takes away from actually the narrative as to what is going on sometimes. And to your point around stuff that was said or said afterwards, it's up to the coach and the club. But all I'll say is that to have half the national team in the Indian squad, when you look at the last Indian squad that was selected, there was 2 players from our club. We were one of the lowest in terms of players that were selected to go and represent the team. So it's important to me that when those comments are made, it doesn't really affect us, because internally we know what we're doing and how we're doing it. But I'd like to think the general football public and the knowledge out there would be able to see through some of those comments as well.
Des, I have a question regarding about defense. I mean, there is a weakness. I have quite a few I've saw in the last 4-3 matches, but especially with the left backs. Do you think which player who can stand out for the next 10 matches, because the half of the tournament gets over? So which player do you feel that in the fullbacks who can stand out? And second question would be the updates on Griffiths' injury.
Yeah, I'll start with Griffiths. So Griffiths is fit and able for selection. So he'll train today fully and he'll train tomorrow fully. So he's available for selection for the game. It was more a precautionary thing to not take him last week, because we know that we've got the remaining. We didn't need to, with Matada sitting on the bench, and it was an opportunity for Matada to start, deservedly so. In terms of the fullbacks, It's the same as the other positions we have on the field. I think it's probably more noticeable because we've chopped and changed that maybe a little bit more. But when you look at certainly our midfield, it's no different and we haven't changed it too much more than we have our midfield. And that's because we're in a fortunate position right now that we've gone about our recruitment to try and have 2 players in every position. At the moment, we don't have that in certain areas, but at times in games where we maybe would have struggled last year to change our approach either at the start or during the game. I think what you're starting to see at left back is that we've got different ways. One player may offer us a little bit more defensive security and another may offer us a little bit more going forwards in terms of attacking how we want to play. So it's picking the right moments for each game and then seeing how the game plays. And I think Vignesh, when I go back to the reverse fixture when we played Chennai, Mandar played well from a defensive point, but we felt we could get a little bit more from Vignesh in an attacking sense. And I think with his first touch he scored. So, when that happens, that's good. But it's just looking at each game and seeing what players that we have that we feel will be the best of field to take advantage.
So then coming back now that you mentioned Griffiths and how he's fit, how he'll fully train. So would you be the person who's probably going to Muthana and saying that you might not be starting, or how does that discussion entirely pan out? Because he has come in when Griffiths was not in the side. He was a massive part as you kept a clean sheet away from home the other day. So does Griffiths, one question, does he come straight back in, or is there a possibility of seeing 2 centre backs again? 2 foreign centre backs? And the third thing again, when you are talking about so many good players, how do you actually tell them that this is the game, probably you're not needed in the starting 11, or you're not starting, or we have some other idea? So how do those conversations go?
Yeah, the pleasing thing is I've spoke about not just having good players but good people, and I think the way that we communicate and work with these players on a daily basis, we're very open and very honest with them. So if they do start or they don't start, most people don't want to know why they're starting, they want to know why they're not starting. So I think if you can explain, and we explain the reasons and the rationale behind certain decisions, because we don't want them thinking other things. Again, they don't have to necessarily agree with it, but hopefully they understand it a bit more because they've been told it. And because we have good people, at the moment those decisions I'd like to think have gone in our favour in terms of the teams we've selected and the personnel we've either started with or certainly made changes during the game. And to your point around Roston, I'm not going to tell you whether or not he'll start or whether it's in place of or within. All I'll say is what's been really pleasing this year, we've started with 2 foreign centre-backs in the first game. So we have the ability to do that, which is something we didn't have last year. And when I look at the success for the teams that finished in the top 4 last year, everybody had the opportunity to field 2 foreign centre-backs. So it gives us that chance to either start or at some point in the game go to that should we need to. But then I could say the same about the other foreign players we have. We've started and taken off all of the foreign players throughout the last 10 games, and all 6, as well as the rest of the squad, of course, are going to be so important to make sure we finish off this season as strong as we can.
Coach, do you see a turnaround in Chennai FC's performance since you all thrashed them 6-2 in the away fixture earlier this season?
I think I've seen an improvement in all of the teams, ourselves included, and I think you get that for every game that you do play. You're able to work on certain things that training maybe you can't get out of training, and I think the more time on the training ground obviously helps, but the more games and the more chance the players get to play in competitive games, teams do get better, and I think we see that last season in the ISL. The games become more competitive, and I expect that again this year, so it's important. Yes, I think Chennai have improved, but I think so has every other team, including ourselves, and that's our challenge now. It's making sure that we continue to get better to make sure we can continue progressing the way that we want.
And how do you ensure that complacency does not creep in the setup after such a flawless start to the season?
I got asked that question 2 days ago. I got asked that question yesterday, and I think anyone that was at our last training session 2 days ago before we had yesterday off, there is no doubt our players are pushing and driving each other because we have 2 players nearly for every position. Every player wants to play. Every player we have wants to be successful. And players now know, whether it's the teams we've started or the way that we've made changes during the game, that if the performance or maybe it's not quite working, we can make change, and that change is effective this year, and that's going to be so important. What you don't see often on TV is what happens on a daily basis at the training ground, and the last session is the only reference I can give you to stop complacency. The level of competitiveness in our training session, the standards that are expected and how they hold each other accountable without the staff even having to do that at times. that's something that within this group has been very pleasing to see, and it's something that's going to need to stay there for us to be to have the success that we want and we need.
My question to Des, especially, I mean, can we see young players, especially like Asif, who's in bench for a very, very long time, Gurkirat and Vikram, very good talented players, or maybe some other players who's still there in the bench. But do you think that, is there anything experimenting to do, or is it like to just keep that momentum going after that win against, like from the last 10 minutes?
Yeah, we've got a very mixed squad in terms of ages, but when I look at our squad right now, we've 24-year-old goalkeeper, a 24-year-old Indian centre back, Vignesh at 23, Apoy at 22, Jante 24,
Need 24.
Vinny 24. So we still have a relatively young squad. So yes, players will get opportunities to play, but while the team are playing the way they are at senior level, it's based on performances. And that's important that those young players, firstly, are able to learn off of these senior players or these younger players within our squad. But we've said we want to be a club that develop and recruit the best young players. And I'd like to think over the last 12, 14 months, certainly since I've been here, a lot of those young players have not only had an opportunity, but they have gone in, and if they've done well, they've stayed in. And I think that's pretty reflective of our squad right now. And those that maybe haven't yet got on, or maybe had as many minutes as they can, it's important when they come on that they take their opportunities and show that they can, because I'll use Vikram as an example. Vikram has come on in the last couple of games and he's performed extremely well. And that just opens up opportunities for him to come on again. But it's also juggling, making sure as a team, the team that are performing, they're the ones that we need to make sure continue driving us forwards. But it's that mixture of young players, debuts maybe, whilst also trying to balance up the results and the performances that we all look for.
Take the last question.
Yeah, so Chennai FC played their last game on Monday. They played at home to the Kerala Blasters. Your last game was on Friday. So as a coach, obviously the scheduling of the ISL means that there will be some days where you will get a couple of days lesser off than the opposition. So does this creep into your thinking anyway, and how difficult, easy it is to have, say, a longer break or a shorter break based on how the team is also performing?
I spoke to Matada 4 yesterday, and he couldn't speak highly enough of the difference between last season and this, because last season I think we were playing every 2 or 3 games.
Yeah.
So he said it almost felt like a different thing altogether this year, where you're even getting 4 days or 5 days or up to 6 or 7 that we've been fortunate in this round to get. I think the players are more grateful this year in terms of the scheduling, because it allows more time for them to rest and recover, which in turn should result in a better performance on the field for the fans and for people watching our game. So I think whether it's 4 days or 5 days like Chennai have had, or 7 days that we've had, we've had games already where we've had 4 days, 5 days turnaround. So I think it balances itself up. But the pleasing thing is there is a bit more time, which hopefully reflects in the performances of both teams.
Thank you.
One last thing I just want to tell is that if you want to say something to the fans on the Christmas Eve, obviously is coming. So any message to the fans, to the Mumbai City FC, if you can say this on it.
Firstly, Merry Christmas. We're looking forward to having a packed house and a full house at the Mumbai Football Arena. And I've spoken about this before. We may not be the biggest in terms of attendance or the biggest stadium, but coming to the arena for me is a totally different and special experience, because of the closeness of the pitch, because of the atmosphere that's created, because of what goes on before and after the games in terms of the entertainment that's certainly put on. And that spills onto the pitch. The players feel it, the staff feel it, and I'd like to think then it drives the performances. And certainly we're doing as much as we can on Christmas Eve to put on the best performance we can to send our fans home as happy as we can.
Perfect. Great. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
Furba.
Thank you.